Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed your break. I, for one, did. I had the opportunity to laugh a little bit, so that's always fun. Um, Now we're going to talk about something that I don't feel fully qualified to talk about because we just talked about that, right? However, I'm willing to talk about it, which is how to navigate life and relationships. Because who here is a relationship expert? God. That's the right answer. If that's what you said in the chat, that was the right answer, okay? The rest of us are all learning as we go. But I do want to share with you some things that I have learned along the way myself. Now, growing up, I may date myself a little bit here. So, what I'm going to say, if you find that when I say this, that you are older than me, I want you to remember Timothy, okay? And if you find that you are younger than me, then I'm just your big sister here. I get to be a big sister in real life. I'm the youngest and I am the little sister, but I get to be the big sister right here to you, okay? So the first song that I grew up hearing was, "This is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend." I want you to put the rest of it in the chat. Some people, okay, I'm sure you all are saying started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that doesn't end. Yes, if that's what you wrote, you are correct. The other song I grew up singing was, "Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the others." Did you get that one? Gold. That's right. One is silver and the other gold. I used to love that song because it gave me an excuse to be everyone's friend all the time because one is silver and the other is gold, okay? But as I got a little bit older, what I learned was that there's a difference between friendship and relationship. And I was the kind of person who was anyone and everyone's friend. My stylist, I have been her friend since preschool, y'all. Since preschool, I've known her. And when I'm going to get my hair done and we're walking down memory lane, one thing that we talk about is how everyone was always my friend. She'll say what someone's name, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was my friend in 5th grade. Oh, I used to go over her house every day in 7th grade." And she's like, "Rachel, how in the world were you everyone's friend at some point in time?" I don't know. I have no clue. I later learned that part of that was because I have a ministry for women. And now that I have been able to have relationships and friendships with so many people, I understand people from all walks of life. Okay? That's one thing. But part of the reason too was that I did not understand the difference between friendships and relationships. There is a key difference. So today, this part of the conversation is just me having a chat with you. I'm going to share some things that I've learned. I would love for you to share things in the chat box as we're talking and you're hearing things. What is it making you think of? What comes to mind as I mention certain things? So first, I want to talk about a relationship because there is a difference. A relationship is something that you have because you relate to the person, okay? You can have a relationship with your coworkers. You may not have any conversation with them, but because you relate, because you both have the same job, that is someone who you have a relationship with. At church, we have relationships with people. If you're a homeschool mom, you may walk into the homeschool events and you're like, "Oh, I knew this person because we have something in common. We relate in some way." But a friendship goes further. It's deeper. It is an intentional act of getting to know each other, of partnering together, of what I like to say is an assignment. That's what a friendship is. And so often we make the mistake of assuming that relationships are friendships and friendships are relationships and back and forth. And we find ourselves either disappointed, hurt, frustrated, the whole thing, because we don't understand the components of the relationship and the friendship. Relationships and friendship both come with responsibilities. They may be different, but they come with responsibilities. Especially as a follower of Christ, anyone that comes across our path that God allows us to have any type of connection with, our responsibility in those relationships and those friendships are to help them experience heaven through us, to help them experience Christ through us. That is the first and foremost responsibility that we always have. Whether you meet someone for a moment or there's someone that's in your life for a lifetime, what is the assignment for me in this person's life? Here's where frustration comes in. Frustration develops when a relationship becomes the weight rather than the thing that helps us carry the weight. And I want to honestly say, frustration develops in friendships when the friendship becomes the weight rather than the thing that helps us carry the weight. In the relationships and the friendships that we have, it's so important to be aware of, God, what is it that I am supposed to contribute to this friendship? This friendship could have existed since childhood. What does that look like for me as an adult? What does it look like for me as an adult to make sure that this person is doing what you have called them to do, and vice versa? At any moment when there is a disconnect or a lack of understanding of that, that's when we become frustrated in our friendships and our relationships. Can I tell you a secret? Y'all ready? Not everyone around you is called to be your friend. Earlier this year, toward the later part of the year, God spoke to me about this because, again, I am the kind of person who everyone's my friend all the time, no matter what. We can be friends. I can be your friend, okay? And God had to show me that it's beautiful. That is your heart, Rachel. You are a person who's drawn to relationships, but don't confuse favor with friendship. There are times that I am placing you in front of people and around people because they are going to be able to catapult you into where you're called to go. But that does not mean that you're going to have this lifelong friendship going on. There's favor that I have upon your life and that they're going to partner with. And so often we confuse that. We're like, oh, this person helped me do this, and this. And really what their job and their role in that season of our life was to help us move in partnership with God and move forward with what God called us to do. Our motive in every friendship or relationship should be, how can God be glorified in this? How can God be glorified in this relationship? Growing up, the relationships were about me. Oh, I like this person because I like, we think alike. We have things in common. We both enjoy the same music. We both enjoy going the same places. That was okay growing up. But now that we are intentional and walking in our assignments with focus, now that we understand that we have a calling on our life, our relationships have to bring God glory. They have to bring God glory. When they don't, they can become a weight. When I don't understand that you are going to be someone that helps me in accountability and walking in my assignment, it can become a weight because it becomes a burden. I was quick to connect with people and think this is just supposed to be this lifelong friendship. And God was like, no, Rachel, this is an assignment. And so I like to break down friendships in 3 categories. And before I said it's the 3, the 12, the 5,000. But I realized that Jesus only had 12 people total walking with him. So it's really 3, 9, and 5,000. And so let me explain that a little bit. Your 3 are your inner circle. These are the people that know you inside and out. They know about your life. They know about your family. They know about your work. They know what makes you happy. They know the things that bother you. They can look at you and they're like, something's going on. What is it? And then you start the ugly cry. You know the ugly cry, the sudden ugly cry, okay? These are the friends that know you so well and that you have allowed yourself to become vulnerable with, and they're vulnerable with you in return, and you are growing together. Then you have the 9. The 9 are people who are a part of your circle, but maybe you just connect with them because you work together, and outside of work you all realize we both love Jesus, so let's hang. Or maybe they're a homeschool mom with you. I mean, outside of the COVID homeschool, like regular, normal homeschooling, okay? And maybe you're realizing, I like her because she thinks the way that I am, and she has children that are the same age. So this is how we connect. And typically the 9 are connected in maybe 1 or 2 areas of your life. But you don't find yourself being as vulnerable with them as you are with the 3, because the 3 is a part of every area of your life. They have taken on the full responsibility of saying, I'm going to be a part of everything that's going on. I am committed to the friendship in that capacity. There's a reason there's only 3 of those people, because that's a lot. That's a lot for a person. But we each should have at least 1 or 2 that would fall in that 3 category. So you have the 3, you have the 9, and then you have the 5,000. The 5,000 are those that you pour out to, that you are giving wisdom to, that you are helping, that comes to you and they're like, I need help, and I know you have wisdom. I need help, and I know that you can support me, and you're finding yourself pouring out to them. Now, if you're anything like me, there were times where those 5,000 people I thought were a part of my 12, my 9, or I thought they were a part of my 3. And I would find myself so hurt when I realized, no, God had an assignment for me to pour into them. It is so clear. It is so important to be so clear on the assignments that God has for us. It is so important to be clear when a person is a 5,000, a 9, or a 3, because this is how we guard our heart. But when we're not clear, we begin to put up a wall because we get hurt. And so the wall goes up. I don't want a 3, I don't want a 9, and I definitely don't want a 5,000. I feel used, I feel unappreciated simply because I'm not clear of the boundary. I have a wall put up instead of a gate. This, my friend, is what I want to encourage you to change from. I want you to take some time and I want you to think, who will be my 3? Who will be my 9? Who will be part of the 5,000? Who have I wrongly placed in those categories? And who do I need to move around? I take what I call friendship inventory. And maybe once or twice a year, I will sit down and I will think about the people that are in my life and where do they actually fall in this season of my life? Because people can move, okay? They can move around. Sometimes they're a 3, sometimes they're a 9, sometimes they fall into the 5,000. And I still have a relationship with them, but not in the same capacity. Take friendship inventory. Take inventory of the people in your circle. All right, so that's friendship. We tackle friendship. Now I'm clear of who's my friend. But now I want to talk about relationships, because there are also 3 key things and lessons and components of relationships. We're not just throwing relationships out because they don't fall in the friend category. There is so much value in relationships. So I like to say you need 3 kind of people in your life. Someone in it with you, someone who's already been through it, and someone who just has tons of wisdom that they will impart into you. So someone in it with you, that may look like a community, your tribe, people who are like-minded with you. It could be one of your friends, but they are walking the same journey as you are in a specific area of your life. Then you need someone who's already been through it, because you need to be able to look ahead and see, okay, I can get to the other side of whatever this is. They're going to have wisdom that they're going to be able to say, look, if I could go back and do it differently, this is what I would do differently. You can listen to it if you want to, or you don't have to. But I'm just going to tell you what I learned along the way. We need that person. And then we just need someone in our life who just has tons of wisdom. They may not know anything about the thing that we are walking in. However, they're willing to share just godly wisdom that helps us to make decisions and to be pointed in the right direction. You need those 3 people in your life. So when I began to transition, I started off in music. I know you can't tell at the beginning. And I used to sing. My throat's a little dry. I know you can't tell, but I started out with singing. I loved music. I think I started maybe around 8 or 9 years old, being in choirs. And then in my teen years, I was in choirs, and just anything you could think of that had to do with singing, music. I played the flute, and I taught myself some things on the piano. Whatever you come up with, I loved music. And so the community around me all centered around music. We sang together. We would travel with singing. We would play instruments together. I mean, my community was centered around music. Those were the people that were in it with me. But then when I began to transition into more writing, there was this gap where I felt totally by myself. I'm like, okay, so this is weird. I'm used to having tons of people around me. And now that I'm like not doing music, I'm like, I want to be a writer. Yeah, there's like no one I know that's writing. And then I heard on the radio that there was this Christian station, they were looking for some bloggers. And I'm like, oh. So I submitted to be a blogger, and after submitting 3 or 4 different times, misspelling words all along the way, and then them still saying, yes, we want you. I knew that was God, y'all. I came into community with writers, and there were maybe about 10 of us, and we were all bloggers. And so we would write for the radio station, and that was my tribe. Those were the people who were in it with me. And then along the way, I started meeting other people who were already writing books. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they were ahead of me in the journey. Those were the people who had already been through things, and they could share some insight and some wisdom and some tools on the writing journey. And then finally, after years and years and years, God placed a mentor in my life. And this mentor was just someone who poured so much wisdom into me about life and business and not putting the cart before the horse. That's one of his favorite things to say. He poured so much wisdom into me. I was so thankful. So now I had someone who was in it with me, someone who had already been through it, and someone on the other side of it. One of the issues we have is that we don't have a relationship litmus test, is what I like to call it. So we end up feeling used and entitled in the relationships that we're a part of. And as I was navigating my writing journey, I had to learn how to develop this because I was learning so much along the way, and I'm a teacher by nature. So anyone willing to learn, I'm like, let me teach you. And we have to have what I like to call the relationship litmus test. So a litmus test is a question asked of potential candidates for high office, the answer to which will determine whether the nominated official will proceed with the appointment or the nomination. Basically, it's something to say, are you ready? Are you ready for where you're going to go? And the thing about relationships is they function differently than friendships. See, friendships, it's almost like I'm willing to go through life with you. Relationships are like, are you ready? Because I have the ability to take you here. I'm willing to invest in you with the opportunity, but I don't have that same entitlement or that same sense of obligation that we sometimes have in friendships. I want you to think of the rich young ruler of Matthew and Mark. For him, giving up all he owned was a sacrifice that he had to make to show that he was ready for the opportunities that God would be able to give him, that he was ready to walk with Jesus. And we all know he didn't necessarily pass that test because he was not willing to give up the necessary things that will be required for the relationship, okay? Some of the relationships that you need, you will have to invest to be into those rooms, that space. You'll have to invest time, you will have to invest energy, and you will have to invest financially to be in the space for the relationships that will take you to the next level. How do I know? Because I've been there. I have been at a place where I had to grow and learn. This had nothing to do with feeling worthy. It had everything to do with being ready. Two totally different conversations. I didn't feel like I'm not worthy, but was I ready for the opportunities that would come? So I want to give you an example. I have something I call Writer's Connection, and I have learned so many things along the way as a writer. And I am, like I said, a teacher by nature. I want to teach you everything I know. But I also have this thing about like throwing the pearls among swine. You know, there's scripture that talks about that. And I want to make sure that the people who I pour into are ready to actually take action. Because if I prematurely share information with you, you can easily get overwhelmed. And if I wait too late, then you miss the opportunity. So there's this moment in time that's a perfect moment that an opportunity is available to you and that you'll be ready for it. So part of the writers group is that there is an investment that these people make to sit at the table and to learn over 12 weeks everything they need to know to go out and communicate their writing message. Now, sure, I could take this and I could share it with anyone, but my goal is that you take action. That is what is important to me. But I also know that in order for you to take that action, there's a sacrifice. There are times where we have to prove almost to ourselves that we're serious about this, that we're serious about what God has called us to do, that we're serious about the fact that whatever it takes by any means necessary. I had someone send me a text message in my community, and they were like, Rachel, I'm ready, whatever it takes by any means necessary. But we have to make sure that we put action with those words, right? We have to make sure it's the litmus test. And for us, the litmus test is, am I willing to make the investment? I went to conferences. I would pack things up. I would get a sitter. And I would have my husband drive, okay, y'all? He would drive. And we would go hours to conferences to sit and to learn about writing, to learn about speaking. I would find coaches that would help me. I did everything that I knew possible, because even being partnered with God, I have to be willing to do my part. And there's a part that I do that shows that I have some skin in the game and that I am willing, that I'm committed to this. And so the relationships that came from my willingness to do that, that's where I found my first editor, was going out to a conference. It was a litmus test. Okay, are you going to be willing to sacrifice to show up at this event? Because I have something for you there if you're willing to show up. Relationships function differently than friendships do. They function differently because there's a different connection point. You may just have a relationship with someone for a season, but there's so much that you can gain from that relationship that will prepare you for the next thing. There has to be an exchange in order for the person to know that you value them, and in order for you to know the value that you can bring. There's an exchange that takes place. It may not always be a financial investment exchange. It may be an exchange of showing up. It may be an exchange of things that you say. It may be an exchange of sharing. The exchange can be just your time alone can be the exchange. Are you going to waste my time? Hopefully not. But there's an exchange that happens in relationships. So we can't go into the relationships thinking, okay, this is going to function like a friendship. And yes, there's an exchange in friendship, but there's a different sense of obligation in those friendships than there is a relationship. So I want you to take a moment, and I want you to think about your friendships. And I want you to think about the exchanges that you have made in those friendships. And I want you to think about who will fall in my 3, in my 9, and in my 5,000. And why do they fit those categories? And then I want you to think about relationships that are around you. And I want you to consider, where do they fall? Is this someone who's in it with me? Someone who's already been through it? Or is it someone who just has a ton of knowledge that they're going to be able to pour into me, that will prepare me for what God has called me to do? I want you to think about both of those things. And then I want you to write it down. It's the teacher in me, y'all. It's the teacher in me that wants you to write this down so that you can be accountable to what you're saying. These are the people. And I want you to commit to looking at your inventory, taking relationship inventory, taking friendship inventory. Where do people fit? Yes, there are times where they will parallel, and there will be other times where they intersect. There are times when the person going through it with you will be a friend. But then there are times where the person going through it with you will just be someone that God has brought on your path so that you know you're not alone. Where do people fit in this? You know, when I think about the beauty of relationships and friendships, I think about the growth that I have had over the years. The last 2 years of my life has been major opportunities for me to take inventory of the friend that I am, the friend that I've been, the relationships that I've had around me, how I stewarded those relationships. Because I have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to steward the relationships that God places in your path. And so I've taken the last couple of years to grow and to learn and to honestly just try to become better in those areas, to be a good steward of the relationships God has given me. And what I have learned is key, is that people know when you are in this for them or when you're in this for yourself. But ultimately, they know when you are pursuing God and you are after the heart of God for them. And no matter who comes along our way, we want them to feel God's heart. We want them to know that everything that we're doing is because we believe in the God that is in them, that is leading them down the path. We just want to partner with them. We just want to come alongside and say, you're not alone. You know, if you hear me at any moment, you'll always hear me say, I'm on the journey with you. I'm not trying to tower over you. I'm not trying to make it seem like I've made it further. What I am aware of is that we are all on this journey together. And any way that I can be a blessing to you on the journey, let me be that. Because I was at one point sitting on the other side of a screen, sitting in the chair, looking and wondering, God, what do I need to do to walk in the assignment that you've given me? Who do I need to partner with? I get it. I get it. So my friends, here, I've given you some homework. I'm not going to be able to stand over you and make sure you do it. However, the teacher in me has to give you homework to do that relationship and that friendship inventory. Be accountable. Make sure that you know, how am I investing into my relationships? What is my assignment in this relationship? What is my assignment in this friendship? So that you can grow and do all that God has called you to do, moving forward in the calling that He's given you. God bless, and thank you so much for listening in.